Now you could say from the business of life, you could look at one comment here. It's on 27, which she's talking about truth. Okay? If truth is not to be found on the shelves of the British Museum, where I ask myself, picking up a notebook and a pencil is truth. I set out in the pursuit of truth. So that is definitely the business of life, I would say. Where she looks to set out in the pursuit of truth.
And what do you think she means by that?
I think she again is looking not to be one-sided, not to be. This is not about man. It's not about woman. You know, it's not about. I think the truth really for her is like if you write in a biased way, if you write with your prejudice, if you write with the heat, you will write, but it won't be truth. I think truth. I think she's looking for like what is truth, what is the state of writing as truth or living as truth. You know what I mean? What is that state? You know, because I think she'll point out many times that it's the state of the no conflict, the state of neither being one or the other, the state of, you know. So I think she's looking at, you know, that state. I think she sees that, you know, it can't be one side or it can't be one or the other. It can't be, you know, even though woman is not seen here, it can't be the woman must be seen. It actually, I think she's saying the truth is not really about that. It's not. It's about neither one nor the other. You know what I mean? It's that state of, you know, the genderless state. I think is the state of truth. I think, you know.
She doesn't anywhere really say what she means by truth, does she?
No.
So what do we think she means by truth, or do we need to address that? I mean, sometimes you don't define words, and then someone's going to ask, aren't they?
Yeah, they probably will.
But I feel the only way you're going to get a sense of what her truth is when you get the other sense of what she's looking at.
Yeah.
I think you then say, well, this is what she means, and that's why I feel when she addresses the genderless state or the game that's going on between the man and the woman, she's really addressing truth. And I think eventually we'll find it in one of our quotes here now that it'll be clearer, I think, you know, the state she's talking about. You know, I mean, I know it's here somewhere where she makes it very clear, like this is it, you know what I mean? And I think maybe then we could relate that and then we're asking the question to the group, you know, is this what she's now calling truth? Do you know? But I think we have to find it now. And I think we'll find it by going through, you know, and even though when she talks about truth, she talks about here on page 33, she said, yet it is in our idleness, in our dreams, that the submerged truth sometimes comes to the top. So it's not on page 33.
33. In the middle.
Okay.
Doesn't she say in the beginning about something that you can't deal with the truth, but she's going to give an opinion instead, or something like that?
That she is going to give an opinion.
Yeah, page 6.
Go on.
To see, I can show you how I arrived at this opinion about the room and the money. I'm going to develop in your present as fully and freely as I can the train of thought which led me to think this. And then further down she says, one cannot hope to tell the truth. One can only show how one came to hold whatever opinion one does hold. One can only give one's audience the chance of drawing their own conclusions as they observe the limitations and prejudices.
Yep.
So
and I think that's the same thing I'm saying. It's only in the unfolding of what you see is that we see the state of unprejudice. Is that what you feel she's saying? Do you feel she thinks it has to emerge from that state of unprejudice, of being non-biased? Do you think that's what she's saying, that it's...
I think at times she uses the word truth kind of like interchangeably with opinion. Because if you even look like further down as well, she says it is for you to seek out this truth, not the truth or a truth, and to decide whether any part of it is worth keeping.
But when she says this truth, what she's saying, is she talking about the non-prejudice? Is that what she's saying? What is she calling this truth?
I think, are you saying that she's saying if you operate without conflict and all that?
Yes, genderless and without
Whatever,
conflict,
all that
all
stuff,
that now she calls it,
What will surface or emerge is truth.
Yes.
Now, you know, the truth about something, in other words, you have an opinion, but the opinion will be a true opinion, the truth.
No. In the genderless state there is no opinion. Like it's not an opinion of one or the other. It's what is. I think she's saying truth is what is. It's a genderless state.
Go back, right, wait a minute now, just go back to...
It's the state of no impediment, it's the state of no gender, it's the state of no heat.
But what comes from that then?
No,
if she sets out in pursuit of truth and she's offering what she calls an opinion, if it comes from no conflict, no division, all that, then in a sense the opinion has a truth to it.
Yes, but as such it's not an opinion then, it's what is. Well,
I wonder, is it, you see, go back here, this might help us now, 33.
Yeah.
Right? Do you see her bit below? You know, you read a bit about the submerged truth sometimes comes to the top, but look at the next bit.
Yeah, it referred me, you know that the one is it?
33?
Yeah, on 33.
Drawing pictures.
Okay, where's that now?
You see in the middle there, you read, yet in our idleness, in our dreams, that
it comes to the top, okay.
Now, drawing pictures is an idle way of finishing an unprofitable morning's work. You see? And then you get the next passage, right? And then she says, look, I'm not going to get into pop psychology, right? But on looking at my notebook, the sketch of the angry professor had been made in anger. Anger had snatched my pencil while I dreamt.
Yeah.
Now, suppose we think of the sketch she drew of the professor as an opinion.
Which it was.
In which case, this is an opinion done in anger.
A biased opinion, definitely.
Now, on the other hand, if she had drawn it without being in anger and all that, it would still be a sketch, it would still be an opinion.
Yes.
But it wouldn't have been done in anger, and in that sense it would have been more truthful. Is that her argument?
Yeah, it would be done in a neutral state. Would it?
Yeah, well, something like that, yeah.
It would have no anger or no anger.
That's right.
It would be
but in that sense it would be more truthful.
It would be truth.
Yeah.
Truth would have no bias.
We'd still call it an opinion though.
That's the questionable part, you see. If you want to go deeper.
I think she does.
Yeah.
Like take the sketch, you'd still have a sketch.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be a sketch done in anger.
Yeah.
It'd be a sketch done in calm and whatever. Yeah. And in that sense, she would say, I think, that's a more truthful sketch.
Yes. Okay.
Right. And then if we replace sketch with the word opinion, it seems to fit what she's saying though, no?
Yeah, no, I agree, but so she paints that picture for us.
Right.
But then if we look at some more of her stuff, I think it's not until you look at the rest and then you say, now, what's the picture we have now?
Yes.
Like, is that it? Is it like, okay, so is opinion then, see where does opinion come from then? Because if it's coming from somewhere, it's still biased.
But if it comes from no division, no conflict, all of that,
it's truth.
It's truth. It's more truthful than coming from conflict and whatever.
Yeah, but you see where that's okay. See, if we're to be accurate, it's like it's not more truthful.
Right,
it's truth.
It's truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Once there's no bias.
Yeah.
It's truth.
It's truth. Yeah.
Because it's the bias makes it the untruthful.
Less truthful.
Yeah. The untruthful.
The untruthful. Yeah. No, I agree. But I think she, if I understand the way you're reading her and her words, she still arrives at an opinion.
Okay.
But she's saying it matters how you arrive at the opinion.
Yes, where you operate from.
Where you operate from. So do you operate, we'll just say shorthand, do you operate from conflict or do you operate from calm?
Yep.
If you operate from conflict, you're going to be biased and it won't be the truth.
Yep.
Or true. And if you operate from calm, it'll be, as you said, neutral or unbiased, it'll be true.
And in her sense maybe...
But it'll still be opinion.
Yeah, that's the
from the point of the word she's using.
yeah. If you, yeah,
So let's
see,
check.
that's just, you know, if we went a bit deeper, we just made debate that bit about like, does opinion have to imply one-sidedness? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. But what we want to do first is understand her. So now I'm going to do what I can to show you how I arrived at this opinion. The opinion
Okay, so
that
what page is that now?
page, sorry, 6 penny, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm going to do what I can to show us how she arrived at the opinion.
Right.
Is it? And her opinion is?
She's asked to talk about women in literature.
Yes.
She says at the bottom of 5, all I could do is offer you an opinion.
Yes.
Upon one minor point.
Yes.
A woman must have money, and I know it's actually far from being minor, but
yes.
And I don't mean just the material terms.
Yes.
And that you will see leaves well, etc., you know, whatever I'm going to do, right, but in order to make some amends, I'm going to do what I can to show you how I arrived at this opinion about the room of money. Now, that would seem to suggest she's going to offer an opinion.
Yes, I agree.
Then she's telling us, if you like, how to reach a truthful opinion,
exactly.
truth.
Yes. Yeah.
So like her idea that a woman must have £500 a year in a room of one's own, in her view, is the truth.
Yes.
Now, not to be interpreted too narrowly, but to her there's a truth there.
Yes. That is her opinion.
And it's her opinion that, and she's arrived at it in a certain way.
Yes. And yes, that is right.
So she seems to be calling what she's offering is an opinion.
Yeah.
And then we're interested in how does she arrive at it.
Yeah. And
a truthful opinion.
Yeah. And the emphasis then, even though a woman must have money and a room of her own if she's to write fiction.
Yeah.
But she obviously looks at something. She obviously looks at. I mean, it's not, as she said at the very end. Then for 2 different points, it's not really just about the money and the room. It's obviously how we operate.
Exactly.
Yeah. She makes that comment back at the very end, I think, where she says something like, "I have 2, or I might be criticised for my 2."
Like, what does she actually? She spells out what she means by the money. And
no opinion has been. Sorry, not talking about opinion. No opinion has been.
A page.
Page 104. I'm just jumping ahead now.
Yeah.
No opinion has been expressed, you may say, upon the comparative merits of the sexes, even as writers.
Yes.
So she says, so then so obviously you can hardly fail to make them. She's talking about being criticised now for what she's coming up with. She's come up with 2 things. One is, the second one is right. Next thing that you may object, that in all this I have made too much of the importance of material things. So she's saying I'll probably be criticised for the money bit.
Yeah.
And the room probably.
Yes.
That's one side of it.
But you see what's going on, Paddy? See what she says? This is why I was actually looking for this one. Even allowing a generous margin for symbolism, that 500 years stands for this, that a lock on the door means the power to think for oneself.
Yep.
You still may say that. So, like, I think she's acknowledging there that she's using them as a metaphor.
Yeah.
That, in other words, the
lock on the door is to think for yourself.
Exactly.
It's not a lock on your door. Yeah. Yeah.
So in a sense what she's saying when she says a woman must have money and a room of her own, if she's to write fiction, because she's after all talking about literature and all that, is she's saying that, a writer must have the power to contemplate and the power to think for oneself.
Yep.
Is really what the opinion is.
Yep.
Expressed in an image of...
In an image of the locked room or the whatever,
Right. So would we agree for the moment to allow that she is expressing an opinion and the real issue then is she's showing us how you reach a truthful opinion?
Yeah, exactly. How you operate to be that, if you like, to be that writer that she talks about.
Yeah.
Or to be in that place of a truthful opinion.
Yeah, okay. See, look at the bottom 108, or sorry,
one I'm just looking over.
Yeah, just look at the bottom 108 again now, which connects with what we're saying there.
Okay. Yeah.
So that when I ask you to earn money and have a room of your own,
Yeah.
I'm asking you to live in the presence of reality
Yeah.
and invigorating life, it would appear, whether one can impart it or not.
Yep. Yep.
So it's definitely a metaphor for how to, like, living.
To
isn't
live in
it?
the presence of reality, as she calls it. Live in the
Yeah.
presence of reality. An invigorating life, it would appear. Yeah. So she spends just a little bit of time kind of looking at, the looking glass, if that comes up in it. The looking glass idea
Yeah, what
of
page
where
are you
it's kind of on 37, on 38, on 36, or 6 or 7, 38. She's looking at really how man sees himself twice as big by looking at woman as a reflection from the mirror. In other words, that he sees only for the fact that he sees the woman as inferior, he can't be superior.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that point is important or not,
I think it is. You see,
probably somebody who's going to somebody will pick up on it. You see.
Yeah. But again, it's a bias, isn't it? You see.
Yeah, it's definitely a bias.
Yeah.
It's a bias, definitely, on the man's part in this case.
Yes.
That in fact that he can only feel superior in the company of the woman because he sees her as twice as inferior as him, or twice. She's not only inferior but twice the amount, because she says here, she calls him, as twice. He sees himself as twice the natural size of the woman. So she's actually saying that the purpose of the woman, from the man's point of view, was to make the man feel twice his size, basically. And she's saying that's how men feel superior. It's not because they're superior, it's just because they make women inferior. And then she, somewhere along the way, down the line, to make the comment then about who was it said it. I'll find it down here. That when women are no longer needed to make babies, they will no longer need to exist. Something like this. The looking glass vision is of supreme importance, she says here on page 38. She says, take it away and man may die like the drug fiend deprived of his cocaine. And then she's saying this then to the writer on the same on page 38. I hope that you will investigate when you have 500 a year of your own. She's making this comment about the inferior and superior, and she's saying then I hope this is investigated. So it's just a point of hers, but it ends there then as such. And then in her next chapter, then in chapter 3, she's then looking at fact and fiction. Again, another area that might come up, where she's looking at that, how close is fact to fiction. And she's saying on page 43, fiction is like a spider's web attached, ever so lightly perhaps, but still attached to life at all four corners. And then she says, but when the web is, just a few lines down, but when the web is pulled askew, hooked up at the edge, torn in the middle, one remembers that these webs are not spun in mid-air, but in corporate features, and by incorporeal features, but are the work of suffering human beings and attached to glossy material things like health and money and the house we live in.
Grossly material things.
Sorry?
Grossly
material, exactly. So she's saying fact. She said fiction is really fact. And she even makes that comment somewhere along the way that in fact, good fiction has to be good fact. So she's connecting fact and fiction. That's another area that can be explored. How much, are we a fiction? Are we a fact? If we think we're fact, but perhaps we're fiction. It's the whole area of the game we play in ourselves. Are we a fictitious character, basically ourselves playing a game, thinking that it's fact? Because she's saying that's why fact and fiction, are basically the connection between the two of them is like one is the other, really. So when we're looking at fiction, we're looking at fact. Or when we're looking at fact, we're looking at fiction. You know what I'm saying? So our fact, I would say, if we were to pursue it, she's actually saying is also fiction. So the life we live, you could, if you go down the track then of the life we live, are we living in a fictitious state in our heads? Is that what a mind state is? is it a fictitious state? If you were to pursue that from her, from what she's saying, you'd be going after that. And that's then where you bring in time into it. Is there time? If there's no time, therefore there is no internal, external. So therefore there's no, and equally there's no fact and fiction. It's actually all the one. But we're fooling ourselves. We think our fact is fact, when in fact it may actually be fiction. But that's another area that you might skim, or it mightn't go anywhere.
Yeah, number 64 now in relation to that.
Yeah.
Sorry, 74.
74.
And since a novel has this correspondence to real life,
yeah,
its values are to some extent those of real life, even though it's fiction.
Exactly. So she pulls up on it a few times. Now, if somebody picks up on it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Depends if people can. It depends what you want to do. Depends on how much you want it. Like that's another whole area. That's the whole area of fact and fiction and time, and whether us operating in a mind state is a fictitious state. You know what I'm saying?
Is what she's saying? We're talking again about. She's talking about writing fiction.
Yeah.
But to her, fiction has truth in it.
Yes.
If it's written in a certain way, no, that's the wrong way of putting it. If it's written from a certain place.
Yes. If it's written from a certain place,
yeah.
It's not fiction. It's fact.
Well, no, it's got truth to it, I think. We're better than fact with it. Is that what she's saying? The white light of truth.
Yes.
Versus what? The red heat
the red
of emotion.
Heat yeah.
So if it's written with the white light of truth.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's truth.
It's like facts of life in a way. It's a fact of life, like it's a truth. So in that sense, it's a fact.
It's a fact as opposed to a fiction. So it's a fact.
Or non-truth, like in that sense. If it's written from the red heat of emotion.
Yeah, but I think the point she is making is like, where's fact and where's fiction?
Yeah, I agree.
You see, it's so like you're playing now with fact and fiction. How much am I fact here, or how much am I fiction?
Yeah. She goes on then talking about being influenced by the male dominance and all this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And go down to the bottom. She was thinking of something other than the thing itself. And
are we still on 43? Oh, sorry, I'm 74 now.
74. You see, she goes on then to talk about the male dominance, right?
Yeah.
And down at the bottom, she was admitting that she was only a woman, or protesting that she was good as a man, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So in other words, she's operating from a conflicted place.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter what she was thinking of something other than the thing itself.
Yes.
Down comes a book upon our heads. There was a flaw at the centre, blah blah blah. It was the flaw at the centre that had rotten them. She had altered her values in deference to the opinion of others.
Yeah, that's the important point.
You see, that's the point, isn't it?
That's the important point there. Is altering your values in deference to the opinion of others. Yeah. Yeah. So you're not writing your own stuff. You're still influenced by your.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then if you wanted to look at kind of the fact and the fiction, where she's really looking at women, then where she's kind of looking again at the state of women being unseen, is she's saying, indeed, if women, this is the end of 44, indeed, if women had no existence save in the fiction written by men, one would imagine her a person of utmost importance. So the woman only becomes important in fiction. Imaginatively, she is of the highest importance. Practically, she is completely insignificant. So this is her again, just her. I suppose her just reading of the situation of women coming into their own, or in the time when the only time they were of importance was actually in fiction. Practically, they were insignificant.
Right.
And at the very bottom of that, if you're picking up on that theme in small writing at the bottom of 45, but the paradox of this world, where in real life a respectable woman could hardly show her face alone in the street, and yet on the stage women equals or suppress men, has never been satisfactorily explained. So this notion again, if you go down that road again of her again, looking at the contrast between the woman and the man, or the woman coming into her own, or being insignificant in that time. And then she says, but what I find deplorable is that nothing is known about women before the 18th century. That's on page 47. That's if we're on that track now of, you know, where she's just looking at that. That's kind of another area again.
Paddy, what about her idea about the androgynous mind?
Yes.
I think the last time we were talking,
Yeah.
we picked up on that point. I think it's page 97.
Yeah, it's a bit further out. I think on the way out to that, she's picking up on a few points, you know, like these points where, you know, one is fact and fiction, one is the, the importance of woman, or not importance of woman, the invisibility of them. So I think she's picking up on the fact and fiction bit. She's looking at the invisibility of woman as she moves along, and I think she's getting now to all of that then. As we move out, but just before we get to that now, how was this here a bit? She's talking here now, she's now getting to this mind. We say that we know nothing about Shakespeare. This is the one here, because she's on page 58. She's beginning to look at the state of mind now. What state of mind? Can you see that at the top?
Page?
58.
58.
Yeah.
What state of mind? Can you see that? It's needed for creative work, because the mind of an artist, in order to achieve, to produce effect of freeing whole and entire the work that is in him, must be incandescent. There must be no obstacle in it, no foreign matter unconsumed. We say that we know nothing about Shakespeare, and she's gone about the reason perhaps is that his grudges and spites and antipathies are hidden from us. We are not held up by some revelation which reminds us of the writer. All desire to power, to preach, to proclaim an injury, to pay a grievance that was hired out to him, custom. Okay. Therefore his poetry flows from him free and unimpeded. If ever mind has, okay, that's just Shakespeare. She's now looking at the mind, the way of operating. She's looking at the state of mind she feels is where we operate in the non-prejudiced state. She's getting into that now. Is that what you were looking at? We're getting towards that?
Androgynous, yeah.
But before you leave that, Paddy,
Yeah.
the sentence, the second line in that paragraph you started with, returning again to my original inquiry.
Where's that? On the same page, 58?
Yeah. Second line of the paragraph you started with.
Oh, yeah, what's the state of mind? No.
You see, returning again to my original inquiry, what state of mind is most propitious for creative work?
Yeah, just the inquiry is, how do I operate?
Right, it's a state of mind.
Yes.
So like room and £500 and all those are conditions or metaphors or whatever we want at different points, but
yes,
her inquiry is what state of mind?
that's it. What state of mind do I operate? Yeah, exactly. To write truth, basically, or to write exactly. That's it. That her inquiry is what state of mind do I operate, and that's why then later on she compares then, you know, Bronte and, you know, Jane Austen, because she's comparing the state of mind that they're operating in. Isn't that right? And Shakespeare. So then we get out to that then. So she's on that case now. Yeah, and she's continuing on the mind state now again in 68. She goes on from that then. When people compare Shakespeare and Jane Austen, they may mean that the minds of both had consumed all impediments, and for that reason we do not know Jane Austen and we do not know Shakespeare. And for that reason Jane Austen pervades every word that she wrote, and so does Shakespeare. So she's now on the state of mind now at this stage. So we got the fact and fiction bit. She's looking at women and men, and she's looking at the kind of the earlier on she's looking at kind of what she called the patriarch or the professor, then onto the invisibility of women, and now it's onto the state of mind. There'll be a kind of so far as we're rolling along there, her main issues, I'd say, are they? And then she's continuing then, of course, on the state of mind, which takes a lot now. She goes into page 70 again now, and she says, one sees that she will never get her genes expressed whole and entire. Her books will be deformed and twisted. She's talking about Charlotte Bronte now. She will write in a rage where she could write calmly. She will write foolishly where she should write wisely. She will write of herself where she should write of her characters. She is at war with her lot. That's on 70.
Pretty brutal.
Yeah, isn't she? Yeah. When one means by what one means by integrity, it's on page 72, 70. In the case of the novelist, is the conviction that he writes one, that this is the truth. Go back to truth again. And again, she's back to Jane Austen again. We're looking at the state of mind on page 73. Would the fact that her sex in any way interfere with the integrity of a woman novelist, that integrity which I take to be the backbone of the writer? Jane Eyre, it is clear that anger was tempering with the integrity of Charlotte Bronte, the novelist. She left her story, to which her entire devotion was due, to attend to some personal grievance. So she's still on the state of mind, leaving her story because of personal grievance. And again, now she brings in fact and fiction again on 74, where she says, and since a novel has this correspondence to real life, its values are to some extent those of real life. She's picking up on fact and fiction again. It's an important point to see the fact and fiction bit. These are kind of her main points, I think. And then she has altered her values in deference to opinion. We saw that one on page 75. Again, she's continuing again with the state of mind. Charlotte Bronte, with all her on page 77, Charlotte Bronte, with all her splendid gift for prose, stumbled and fell with that clumsy weapon in her hands. George Eliot committed atrocities with it that beg her description. Jane Austen looked at it and laughed at it. Thus, with less genius for writing than Charlotte Bronte, she got infinitely more said.
See on page 75, talks about how Jane Austen and Emily Bronte both kept their integrity.
Only Jane Austen did it, and Emily Bronte. Well, Jane Austen did it, and Emily Bronte. Oh yes.
Yeah, and then she said they alone were deaf to the persistent voice. Now grumbling, now patronizing, now domineering, now grieved, now shocked, now angry.
Yeah, very good. They alone, deaf, that, yeah. On page 91, where she's getting again to the place of operating, where she said, but nevertheless she had certain advantages which women of far greater gift lacked even half a century ago. Men were no longer to her the opposing faction. She need not waste her time railing against them. She need not climb onto the roof and ruin her peace of mind, longing for travel, experience and a knowledge of the world and character that were denied her. Fear and hatred were almost gone, or traces of them showed only in a slight exaggeration of the joy of freedom. Can you see that piece? Again, she's back to the state of mind now. She wants to bring us to that she's saying where truth is. What I would say anyways, that's what she's saying. She wrote as a woman, but as a woman who has forgotten that she is a woman, so that her pages were full of the curious sexual quality which comes only when sex is unconscious of itself. On page 92. And then on page 93 she says, if you stop to curse you are lost. Equally, if you stop to laugh, hesitate or fumble, and you are done for. She was saying, you can obviously see. Okay, so that's important, I think, the part in 92 where she's now beginning to look at the whole idea of, she wrote as a woman, but as a woman who has forgotten that she is a woman. Where now she's no longer biased. And then she'll obviously continue that now to the end of the book, really. And then on 96, then she's still looking at the state of mind again now. In the middle, she says, one is unconsciously holding something back, and gradually the repression becomes an effort. But there may be some state of mind in which one could continue without effort, because nothing is required to be held back.
And this is the state we were talking about, that
Yeah.
state of truth.
Yeah, I would say she's
no conflict.
She keeps bringing us now. I think the rest is to bring us to the state of where she feels, the writer needs to write from, where we need to live from. Yeah, and then we're into the androgynous mind, and Coleridge perhaps meant that he looked, she looks at, the bit about the people getting into a taxi, but the sight of two people getting into a taxi made me also ask whether there are two sexes in the mind corresponding to two sexes in the body, and whether they also require to be united in order to get complete satisfaction and happiness. In each of us, two powers preside, one male, one female. Coleridge perhaps meant this when he said that a great mind is androgynous. Perhaps a mind that is purely masculine cannot create any more than a mind that is purely feminine. So she's really talking about a complete unbiased state, or genderless state. Yeah, he meant, and she's talking about Coleridge again, same 1797, he meant perhaps that the androgynous mind is resonant and porous, that it transmits emotion without impediments, that it is naturally creative, incandescent and undivided. And then she looks at again at a comparison between her Mr. B and Coleridge again, where she said in Mr. B, his feelings no longer communicated.
What page?
Page 100. Mr. B and Coleridge. Mr. B, first of all, his feelings no longer communicated. His mind seems separated into different chambers, not a sound carried from one to the other. Thus, when you take a sentence of Mr. B into the mind, it falls plump to the ground, dead. But when one takes a sentence of Coleridge into the mind, it explodes and gives birth to all kinds of other ideas. That is the only sort of writing in which one can say that it has the secret of perpetual life.
What do you think she's saying there?
What do you think she's saying? I think she's saying again that once you, within yourself, she's saying once you have a separated mind, it's like she's saying, separate into different chambers, not a sound carried from one to the other. She's saying that if you operate like that, that a sentence written by somebody like that, as she said, falls plump to the ground. It's only the connected mind, or it's only the non-divided mind, she says, that has the power of perpetual life. And she's talking about as the writer, but she's also talking about what we're calling here the business of life. In order for us to live effectively or to live happily, she's actually saying if we have this separation in us, that we will fall plump to the ground. But if we operate undividedly, we have the secret of perpetual life.
In perpetual, she means happily.
Yeah, perpetuated, which means it will continue.
But it's not the person, it's what the person writes, isn't it? It will have the secret of perpetual life. In other words, it will have truth to it.
Yes, it will have truth to it. But if we're talking here in your page here, you're calling the business of life.
Yes.
I'm saying for us, she's actually saying that the writer, it's not the fiction written by the woman or written by anybody. She's talking about the writer. The writer and the writing are the same thing. Mm-hmm. So really, if the writing has perpetual life, it means the writer has perpetual life. But if the writer is divided in himself, it won't be. So really, she's talking about the writer, but she's actually talking about ourselves. Because she's saying the writer is the writing, the dance is the dance,
right, yeah.
The dancer is the dance, She says here in 102 that it is fatal for anyone who writes to think of their sex. It is fatal to be a man or woman pure and simple. One must be woman manly or man womanly. It is fatal for a woman to lay the least stress on any grievance, to plead even with justice or with justice any cause. She says for anything written with that conscious bias is doomed to death. It cannot grow in the minds of others. That's on page 103 now. She goes on about this.
There must be freedom and there must be peace.
Sorry, is she saying that?
Yeah.
Where's she?
103.
It was on 103.
There must be freedom and there must be peace. Not a will must
Oh, I see it. Oh, yeah, I have it
not a
underlined
life
here.
will
You're right.
not.
There must be freedom, there must be peace. Yeah, that's right. Some collaboration has to take place in the mind between the woman and the man before the art of creation can be accomplished. Okay, the whole of the mind must lie wide open. There must be freedom and there must be peace. Yeah. Yeah, 104. She's just looking at all this pitting of sex against sex, of quality against quality, all this claiming of superior. Can you see the page? Can you see what I'm looking at? 104. Okay, see what she's doing is she's looking at all of what goes on. She's saying actually, she says we need to be mature. If you go down, she says as people mature, they cease to believe in sides or in headmasters or in highly ornamental pots. She looks earlier here about us getting our ornamental pots, if you like, or kind of or prizes for whatever. So she's saying it's only if we stay stuck in that, as she's saying, well, we're obviously not operating from a good place. She says praise and blame alike mean nothing. Delightful of the pastime of measuring may be, it is the most futile of all occupations. It's very good. So any measurement of between us or the sexes, or any measurement really, the most futile of all occupations, as she calls it. So long as you write what you wish to write, that is all that matters. And whether it matters for ages or only for hours, nobody can say. But to sacrifice a hair of your head, of your vision, a shade of your colour in deference to some headmaster with a silver pot in his hand, or to some professor with a measuring rod up his sleeve, is the most abject treachery, and a sacrifice of wealth and chastity, which used to be said to be the greatest of human disasters, a mere flea bite in comparison. She just continues again, like in 109 there, Laura. I find myself saying that it is much more important to be oneself than anything else. Do not dream of influencing other people. Think of things in themselves.
Think of things in themselves, right? On
Yes.
page 109.
Yes.
Go back now to 74.5.
Yeah.
You see at the bottom, thinking of something other than the thing itself. She'd alter her values in deference to the opinion of others. So
Yeah. She'd alter her values in deference to the
Yeah.
opinion of others. Yeah, exactly. It's not to be influenced by others, but there's a double take. You see, one is not to be influenced by others, but the other influence is ourselves.
say that again.
You see, we've an authority outside and authority inside. You see, with the authority outside that influences us, so we're influenced by the authority, let's call
And
it.
that's not being truthful.
Yes, but the other authority, what we have to watch, which is not seen really, is the internal authority. That when you and I have a belief system in ourselves, that becomes another authority.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another conflict. So we look, you know, it's like think of things in themselves. You know, it's much more important to be oneself than do not dream of influencing other people. That's not the one. She's talking about being influenced by other people, but the greatest influence is not by other people; it's actually by ourselves, because we see an authority outside. We mustn't be influenced by that. But the greatest authority is my own belief. You see, and we think my own belief is how I live my life. But what we have to watch really, like if I had the belief of an ice, I go around cutting people's heads off. So I'm saying that's a greater authority. The internal authority is actually far more. Is what we have to look at. Yeah, exactly. Because that is full of.
But she doesn't deal with that.
No, she's not. She didn't look at that. No, so Krishnamurti looked at that.
Yeah.
You see. And then she finishes up. Then, of course, obviously, you know, here. You know, if we live another century or so, I'm talking of the common life. This very last page. And she's looking at, you know, Shakespeare's sister. She's really saying, you know, we all need to rise up, basically. My belief is that this poet who never wrote a word and was buried at the crossroads still lives. She lives in you and me. If we live another century or so, I'm talking of the common life. which is the real life and not the little separate lives. So she's talking about living the real life, the business of life, living a life that is not the life of separate lives, which we live as individuals. If we have the habit of have of freedom, the courage to write exactly what we think. And have 500 a year in us, in our rooms, and a room of our own, if we have the habit of freedom and the courage to write exactly what we think. That there is no arm to cling to, but that we go alone, and that relation is to the world of reality and not only to the world of men and women, then the opportunities will come. And that's what she's saying, is really if we're, we will be effective when we're no longer taking sides. The opportunities will come when I no longer cling, to one world or the other world. But the problem is we keep clinging to the world that we believe in.
Well, doesn't she put the question, really our question, your question, Paddy, on the table, on the agenda? Where do we operate from?
Definitely.
Like that's
the big question. That's the big question. I think at the start she's setting it up for us. She's looking at the authority of men against women. The silent woman. She looks at that. She moves along. And then she looks at women coming into their own. But when they do come into their own, the tendency may be to criticise men. And then she's saying, we need to operate from this other place that is non-critical. Right. And she's setting it up for us, really. I feel, she looks at truth and fiction. She wants us to look at, I think, what's the difference between truth and fiction, what's happening. And she's connecting truth to fiction. She's connecting reality to fiction. So she's saying, truth and fiction basically are the same thing. She says they're held up by the same. So that's another area to look at, that I think these are points I think she's raising. And then she moves into, I think, the main point then, which is the androgynous mind, the mind that is the genderless mind. I think she's saying that is the only way to operate as truth, the only way to be not influenced by one sex, or by not your male or your female, and
Okay, so what else?
What else do you think that could emerge from the book?
Okay, where do we operate from? And she has ideas on that, how to operate creatively.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yep.
Without conflict and all that.
Well, it's the non-divided mind. It's the non-divided mind. It's the the genderless mind. Because if you go off on any of those tracks, you're caught in your own thing.
I suppose we have to bear in mind when you say something like that, like the context she's writing. It's 1928. Women have only got the vote.
Yes.
And she was asked to talk about women in literature.
Yeah.
I suppose in more recent times, 1980s, whatever, you'd have something more like Krishnamurti.
Yeah.
Where he wouldn't be so focused on the gender issue.
No.
But on the more general thing about undivided minds in general.
She's coming up with the same thing.
She is, yeah.
Actually.
That's the point. It's expressed in a language of her time and the context and what she was asked to talk about.
Yeah, and even though she's asked to talk about women in fiction, it's not really women in fiction she's looking at. She's actually looking at all of us as writers or livers. Basically, that it's not about women and fiction really. She's actually saying it's how we all operate we need to look at here, So it's not for either gender to become biased on. So it's not, because she's not really writing about the woman, I feel.
That's the thing. What do you think about that, Laura? That isn't she effectively saying if you focus on women in literature, you're effectively constraining them as writers.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. Yep.
And we still see that today.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Don't we?
But she's also saying to the woman, if you focus on the man, if you focus on the patriarch, or as she called it, the professor, or whatever the authority really, well then you're going to lose as well, because you're focusing on who you feel has had you under the thumb for the last. So she said, well, that's not the way to go either, because then you get lost in the heat of
the bitterness.
The bitterness, exactly, yeah. So she's saying that's not. So she's not playing any side off a side. She's really gone into the space really where she's saying this is for everybody really. And I think that's what's really. So this is not. I couldn't call this in any way a feminist book. I mean, not unless we say a true feminist approach really is the undivided mind.
Yes.
It's not. It's not. It's not a biased state.
But that's the whole point of equality.
That's the point of it.
Yep.
Isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, but I still feel if you mention the word feminist.
But that's just because the word feminist has been wrongly constructed.
But that's the point.
Yeah,
that's the point. You don't think of equality. You think of man versus woman, man against woman. That's what you think.
And why do you think you think that?
Because that's what the feeling I have from any time I hear it. It's like feminist movements or whatever. They seem to be very, confrontational. They seem to be,
but movements are like that.
Yeah, it's against men. Really, it's.
Look at Trump's movement.
Yeah. So I feel, and was you were saying that to me the last time. You were saying no, and for me this book is non-biased. It's the whole sense of non-bias. Really, is the only way to operate. Otherwise, I'll be taking sides or you'll be taking sides. Whether you write or I write, I think she's talking to two of us as writers. It's all the one.
And that's why it's very feminist.
Sorry?
That's why it's very feminist.
But I suppose I wouldn't call that then feminist. I'd call that then, I mean, why would that only be a feminist opinion? You think a feminist opinion are into the neutrality as opposed to men?
Yeah, because that's what equality is about.
Is about?
It's about neutrality, that there is, whatever opportunities one side has, the other side also has. No? Just think about how she builds her argument about when she writes about fiction, that she goes and then she talks about her experience of walking around the gardens and experiencing a lack of equality, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then she goes into the shelves of the museum and start looking like, okay, let me look for what women have written.
Yes.
And then in some centuries she doesn't find anything.
No.
And then off she goes.
Yep.
Right? And isn't that she building her argument like, okay, why, first of all, haven't we written anything for centuries?
Yes.
And then when we actually start writing things, we're being very bitter about the whole thing.
Yes.
And where will that lead us if we keep just writing in this way?
Exactly.
It lead us nowhere.
It'll get us nowhere. Exactly right.
So that's why I think she's very feminist, because she's telling people.
But if I write, if I continue writing as the man against the woman, me the superior, inferior, as she's calling us here, I get nowhere.
Yeah.
So she's talking to
she's
the
talking
two of us.
about both.
Yeah, but that's the point, I think.
And that's what feminism is about equality for all sexes and all genders. And in fact, within a lot of feminist theory, they actually go beyond the women versus the men, because they say there are actually many more genders than just men and women. There are actually, I think, 50 types of genders, if you want to
but you see,
quantify
equality really, see, I feel the state of mind she's talking about is beyond equality. See, I don't feel it's about equality, because equality still implies bias. It still implies a separation. It still implies the two. I feel the mind she's talking about is a neutral mind. You know what I mean? It's not a mind
but equality is a political concept.
Yeah.
In that sense, you're talking like women have the right to vote like men say. So that's, that's an equality that's politically valid.
But you think
she's going much beyond that. She's not going
beyond that.
She's not going that we have to
that.
vote, we have to
but I think
be given the pen to write.
Equality, the right word therefore. If equality is a political concept, and she's beyond, she's not talking politics.
No, she's beyond that, you see. She's beyond she's even beyond, whether it's right for the woman to this or the man to, she's beyond that. She's saying get to the point where there is none of that, where there is no bias, where we are genderless. It's like, that's the point really. So at the genderless state, I don't think there is equality. I don't think equality comes into the equation. And I think it's beyond equality. I think equality is still a genderless statement. Do you know what I mean?
It's funny, if we go back to the politics, the times we're in is not to pursue her the avenue, let's say, of genderless, but expanding all the genders to such an extent that women and men are being blown up. What have we got now? Something like 58 genders on Facebook. So it's a different political strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of getting rid of woman and man as gender categories,
Mm-hmm.
they're being blown up by being dissolved and dispersed and broken up.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great one there, was one I was reading in the Guardian a few weeks ago. It was this one having a battle with Katie Hopkins, what's her name again? Jack something, or a food writer. And she described herself as non-binary transgender.
Non-binary.
Like, I'm still trying to get my head around non-binary transgender. So she doesn't go, it's not a binary either way, she's transgender, that's non-binary. Anyway, so that's great. I sent in lots of friends, get them upset. I thought it was great, the idea that get your head around this now, a few people. You know, but it's a different political strike. That's the political level. I think she's at. Well, you know, she's
I think she's moving beyond that.
Yeah, she's almost spiritual.
Yeah, see, she's talking. I feel she's talking to the two of us. I think she is looking at what you're calling the business of life, which is everybody. It's not gender.
Yes.
It's genderless, and therefore it's not even about equality at that point. Really, it's about how do I live as peace and freedom? How do I live without conflict? How do I live? You know what I mean?
And
how do I write like that then?
Little diagram, you know, she's really pointing to the eye space.
Absolutely.
Rather than the mind space.
Definitely, it's not a mind.
And she's totally ignoring the biology space, really. I mean, there is a few references that imply biology.
Yeah.
But she's not really even bothering with that.
Yeah, the mind space is still is equality.
So
and the eye space.
It's really an argument to get out of to go out of mind space.
Definitely, she's saying live in that space. Really, that's not that. And then there's freedom, and then there's peace.
Right.
So that's how you would say she's kind of like beyond feminism, because she's operating in a much.
She is. That's why I kind of feel this is not a feminist approach. It's not a male approach. It's beyond. You see, it's beyond that. I feel.
Could one argue that she's, in a way, telling feminism, like, look, guys, you should operate.
Well,
you should go much over.
But she's saying it to us all, you see.
Yeah, that's the point. I feel she's writing to me as much as she's writing to you. I think she's writing for me as much as she's writing for you. You see. She's bringing us to this neutral state, whether it's neither gender. It's not about for the two of us. It's like if we look at freedom or peace, that's no longer gender for the two of us. The two of us could operate in that space, and we gender would have nothing got to do with it. You know what I mean? We'd be beyond that.
This book is her recording or record of an internal dialogue she went on with over 3 days. She was doing it. Remember, she said
She went off to sit. She went off to write. She went.
Yeah, she went to Cambridge
for this essay. Yeah.
So she's on her 3-day inner journey with her thoughts and her dialogue and her thinking going on. Her starting point, she's been asked to talk about women in literature, and she comes to the view that this is really about creativity and how does one live a creative life or write creatively and live creatively. So the woman thing always gets dropped out.
It does.
Is that what the journey was? That like literature is literature. Good writing is good writing, and for good writing you must operate undivided and.
Definitely, yeah.
So in that sense, the women part, she's pushing it away all the time. We must go beyond this.
Yeah, I think she kind of. I think what she set out, what she was asked to do, has brought her somewhere else.
Or could you argue that the whole women bit is how she illustrates why we should write from this place of unity, calm, peace?
I mean, for women, she's saying women are not writing from.
No, I wonder. Is she using the women in fiction part of, when she writes about how the authors have written over the centuries, and then showing what is what she would say a good example of writing from this place, and a bad example of writing from a completely different place. could we not argue that this would be the way she illustrated her point?
Illustrated what point?
About how to live life more insightfully.
Oh yeah. I mean, yes.
So I don't think she's moving the whole women thing away from her argument. I think she's using that to illustrate what she meant by writing from this place of insight.
I wonder. She's starting with. Let's remember now. She's given the question, not even a question. She's given a topic.
The topic.
Women in literature, and she starts an internal dialogue about it. And in that dialogue, she goes on a journey. Now, we know where she starts from. How do we describe where she finishes? But she doesn't finish carrying the woman category with her. I don't see it that way now.
She has to talk about women in fiction because that's the topic.
That's where she's starting from.
And she has to, because that's her medium almost, if you like, really.
And being a writer and a critic and all that kind of thing, she's concerned with, we'll say, good literature that lasts, literature that's truthful.
Yeah.
So, to do that, you don't have divisions and categories and conflicts.
No, I think the women part, or the women in fiction part, is just a medium. Like she's been given like a canvas, if you like, really, and you have to use this canvas. So she has to use this. She has to use women in fiction to show us what she wants to show us. So you're right, she's using what she's using is to illustrate something because she was given that canvas, I think. You know what I mean? So she has to use that, I think, as her medium. And I think on that medium, then, if you like, or through that medium, she paints her picture. Do you know? But the picture, it becomes the picture for all of us. But she had to have a medium to work with. I think her medium was the one she was given with women in fiction. So she does a very nice job on taking something like women in fiction and actually make it for all of it. She makes a picture out of it that's actually for all of us at the end. It comes to the business of life she arrived at. She didn't really, wasn't the end of the product. The end product wasn't women in fiction. It was actually, it was something for all of us. But she used.
It was something for good writing in general.
Yeah, but for all of us.
Well, exactly the same point.
It's the same point because all of us.
Everyone.
Yeah, all of us are the writers. All of us are the authors of life, and all of us are the livers. You know what I mean? And the writer and the writing, and as we said, the dancer and the dancer are exactly the same. You see.
Do you know? I know there's a book on it, and it might be interesting just to look at it sometime. There's a book on her various drafts of this.
Various drafts of this?
Yeah.
Get off.
Where it has, her manuscripts now, I don't know how comprehensive and all it is, but the reason I just thought of that there now, I was going to ask the question, where in there in that account now for 3 days kind of thing, does she come to the moment where she realises freedom of thought and whatever, the lock and the money, and then turns it into the metaphor of the room and the £500. But of course the problem with that, what she wrote up, is she put that insight at the beginning and then says, I'll explain how I got to it. But I wonder...
Oh, you want to see where did it happen? If you saw the other pieces, you said, did it happen here?
You can't really see where it happens, or can you see where it happens there? See, I think she's writing that, like she's drafted...
Just a final document, you see.
Yeah, with knowing she's got...
Knowing she's got to here, so she puts it at the start maybe. Yeah, I know.
That's a pity in a way. It's, while it's presented after that, like it's the story of her inner dialogue. She already knows the outcome.
Yeah.
And we know the outcome. I wonder if it would be worth looking to see at what point she arrived at that.
Good question.
Is there anything in it that helps us maybe get a sense when she arrived at it? Where does she first say, after the beginning, the room and the money? Where does she first say that?
See now?
Page 39, she talks about the money.
Does she?
I think she does.
One room, 67 anyway. She might be got a bit before that, did she?
I have here 39.
Oh, 39, okay, better again.
Right. Right,
No
yeah.
force in the world
into
can
the
take me
money.
from my £500.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then she talks about her auntie leaving her the money. And then actually she says how she reached it, 66. And she was
Oh.
reading Afra Ben.
Oh.
Check here. It was she who earned the right to speak their minds. It is she, shady as amorous as she was, who makes it not quite fantastic for me to say to you tonight. No, wait. Where did I got that?
I don't think in this version it's possible to kind of pinpoint a moment of aha, is there, where it appears.
Yeah,
Like
and what would your
she's-
point be then to the
Well,
or
just to
something?
see like how, well, yeah, just to kind of see the journey, how she got to it in the moment. And of course, the only thing, of course, it could be something she was thinking of for a long time beforehand, from her own
And it
experience,
just confirmed, yeah.
which she talks about in 39, isn't it? My aunt nearly beaten. And she got her legacy.
Or
She's
is it,
very
or
interesting.
is it from the point where she says when she went through the shelves, she couldn't find any books by women?
I don't know.
I don't know, because at that page 66, when she says she found, I think, the first book of a woman who was rich, I think this Afra Ben, so it was she who earned them the right to speak their minds. It is she, shady and amorous as she was, who makes it not quite fantastic for me to earn 500 a year by your wits. So I don't know if, like, when she came across this book, which was, I think, in the 18th century, or I can't remember now. Yeah, I don't know if when she came into the 18th century shelf, that's when she was like, oh, okay, now I see. I don't know.
You see, she's talking as a writer on page 39. And she says, of the two, she says, I found that, well, the sister's letter dropped in and the aunt had left her £500 a year. Yeah? Up the top of the page there, Paddy.
Yeah.
Of the two, the vote and the money I own seemed infinitely more important. Before that, I'd made my living caging odd jobs from newspapers by reporting a donkey show here and a wedding there, you see. Now, I think the vote was in 1927, like she's making a comment as a writer. What was more important to her as a writer, the vote or the money?
Yeah, it says here, women before 1918. Such were just chief occupations that were open to women before 1918, so obviously the vote must come in, did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good book.
Yeah, a very good book, yeah. And a really good read, isn't it? Yeah, I loved reading it, actually. Do you not?
And your interpretation, Paddy, is mind-blowing.
What do you mean now?
It's very good.
Good.
Oh.
That's good.